I think the AOR is as dead as TV. So, and TV is not dead.
Many of us here have kind of lived through many changes in the marketing world. So, and it's not only been changes in what our output is. So, kind of going from more traditional media, which is the story we've all heard a million times. It's not just television and out of home and print anymore. It's all of the digital. It's all of the social. It's all of the new innovations in the space. So, how do we use VR and AR in interesting ways for our brands? It's really not just about the output. It's about the process. Because getting to those ideas requires a slightly different kind of relationship. So that's what we're here to talk about today. What are the most dramatic differences you've seen in the last couple years in the ways agencies and clients are working together? And John, maybe we'll have you start.
I think one of the biggest challenges now is just complexity. When I started my career, which was a long, long time ago, I think it was black and white television at the time. Agencies were held up as the guardian of the brands. And over time, that relationship as clients took on planning changed. Mm-hmm. And clients developed that capability of understanding the consumer and understanding ideas. And that was quite a straightforward relationship. Now, with the sort of proliferation of content and of media channels, it's really complex. And I think a lot of clients, including myself and our team, it can be super confusing. About where do you get content from, mm-hmm. and where do you get ideas from, and right. who develops the ideas. So I think one of the biggest challenges in this relationship is the complexity, mm-hmm. the orchestration of content creation, because it doesn't necessarily come from your lead agency, and the roles and responsibilities that you want to develop. And I do think clients need to make a decision about what capability they want internally, and how they orchestrate content out externally through agencies, through media companies, etc. So hugely complex.
Yeah, it's fascinating. It used to be this, you would go to your above-the-line agency for kind of like the big brand work, create these brand platforms. You would go to your digital agency for the digital work, and now you have these social agencies and what have you. I think the biggest difference I'm seeing is just how much of the raw talent from the agency world that is actually proliferated to the brand side. And that for me, especially in the last year, some of the colleagues that I've had a chance to work with have seemed to try and find a brand that they have affinity with and try and go much deeper into solving this one bigger problem than trying to live vicariously through all these other brands that we normally do during the agency time. But I think fundamentally the biggest change has been just some of the talent going on the brand side. And that's provided a very malleable kind of industry right now, where I think there's a little bit of identity crisis. Media agencies also have creative ideas. Digital agencies are going more upstream and trying to be more thought leaders, and because the production is a little bit commoditized. So it's a little bit of a world where there's this identity crisis, but I think it's also fascinating and exciting in a time like this that ideas can come from anywhere, and different brands have a different model on how they execute upon that.
Yeah, I think to piggyback on that, I was sitting with a client the other day, and we were sort of looking at what are all the options of places we can go to make work. And you can go to CAA, you can go to, the media publisher, the publishers. You can go to a traditional agency, small agency. You can go to, groups like Oliver who are quickly building teams around you. There are so many options. Facebook. There's so many options of where you can decide to partner with. And I think the biggest takeaway, or what I'm seeing successful brands doing, is not necessarily just having a playbook that's we're going to go with this one strategy for a while. It's trying a lot of different things and realizing that you can kind of fail fast in those worlds and see what works for you for different types of projects. There's really not just one specific way of going right now, which makes it really exciting on the talent side as well. I think there's a lot of fun ways to collaborate together.
I think the first thing I'll caveat is, the way that we approach the model of our creative team internally probably wouldn't work for a lot of brands. And I think it's a little bit of a bespoke solution based on the company DNA, which is a very creatively design-driven company that's it's very much a maker culture. So it's kind of like baked into the DNA from even way before I got here 4 years ago. So I think every brand is going to have a different approach. For someone who's spent the majority of his career on the agency side, and even at Squarespace, we've worked with some of the best agencies in the world, from mid-size to smaller boutiques, and we've done some like fabulous work with them. I think what I kind of realized is that when you're working with an agency partner, it's really about people. And it's about relationships, and even more important than the signpost on the door. And I think that there's a lot that brand of agency kind of like gives you, but it's really about finding people that you want to work with. And when you work with some bigger agencies and what have you, you start to really kind of narrow in and kind of see, well, there's actually these people who are doing like the bulk of the work. And you realize that there's a lot of other people in the room that are not actually providing the amount of value that we need at this moment in time. So we've decided to, especially in the last 12 months, where pretty much almost all of the brand work that you've seen has kind of been done by two freelance creatives and
Who are awesome.
who are awesome, and someone that I used to work with at TBWA, and a brand planner for about a month. And the types of relationships we like are for people to kind of come in and feel like they're built into our organization, to feel like a tentacle of our brand, and those are the ones that we seem to work well on. And I don't know if that would necessarily work for every client and every brand.
You have to be really strong internally,
Yes.
And guiding that and have time for it and orchestrate that process for that to happen.
Absolutely.
So that is, I think, what a lot of the best internal agencies are doing. They're not just hiring like the worker bees who are doing like the automation, the performance-driven work. They're hiring really strong people who can push the vision and work with those smaller teams.
Yeah.
I think one of the biggest challenges for internal teams isn't the creativity, it's the thinking. And I think there's a danger, now I sound really old school, I think there's a danger in this world that young marketeers get seduced by new channels, short-term sort of creativity. And I think what has to happen on the client side, and I think you see it in successful clients, is planning has to evolve and has to become far more sophisticated.
Yeah.
And clients need to regain confidence in ideas and understanding ideas and briefing agencies correctly. I remember Hegarty coming to speak at one of my old companies, and he was asked a question by the CMO, and the question was, how do I improve my advertising? And he looked around the table and said, from that question, I gather you're not happy with the advertising you have. And we all went, yeah. And he said, look around the table. You get the work you deserve. And he was right. So I think as clients, we've got to step up. We've got to get better at planning. We've got to take data in. We've got to actually become much better at understanding data and insight so that we can actually orchestrate this sort of more complex content creation world.
Absolutely, and I think that's where I'm a strategist by trade, and that's where, the power of us being able to work alongside our client partners and helping kind of look at some of that data and give those fresh eyes can be really helpful. But totally agree, the clarity on brief is so critical to us to be able to actually articulate the right kind of work. When you look at a brief, and if we're not quite sure what we're trying to accomplish, that's where, again, from a strategic side, we're here to help interrogate that and make sure that we're really we're really clear about what we're trying to achieve with our work. Because again, at the end of the day, it's all about work that works in the world. And I think we're reaching a time where creativity for creativity's sake is a bit of a misnomer. And we're getting to a place where we need work that really helps drive the business. And I think, as we all mature, this is becoming more and more important to everyone.
And I think that's been one of the frustrations for, as we're going to get into some of the, like the team you're working with, that's amazing and creative. I worked with them as well. And, the creative teams and the production teams who end up making the work don't often get to see that strategic part of the business at larger, strategic solving at larger agencies. And it's frustrating. And you want the work that you're putting out to work. But when you are producing $1 million spot or digital campaign and you never saw the strategy and positioning, which is what happens at big agencies, you don't know that you're delivering on that, and it's just an uphill battle. And so I think there's this emergence of these smaller teams that want to be more connected to the business from a creativity point of view, and that this is what we're seeing emerge and how they can do that. It is about the partnership and relationship, and it is definitely, there isn't a one-size-fits-all. You have different teams that have internal capabilities and whatnot, but I think they want, strategic thinkers that can really help in the upstream ideation strategic point of view. Work can be made so many different ways today, but that value of what we're paying for and putting the right people around the table at the right time in the room is really about getting experienced, senior, mature thinkers who are going to help you innovate on the upfront of that process. I think that's causing people to look to work in new and different ways. You're seeing a lot of, sort of workshops or fast ideation processes happening in the beginning with maybe a variety of agencies. So I think there's definitely a need for these upstream teams that can come in and help, work collaboratively with the internal groups to become a part of that process. I think agencies, they are noticing that, there are a lot of different ways brands can spend their money, and so they're really fighting to get that SOW signed. Right. And I was just telling John earlier, I visited 50 agencies this summer with one of my clients, and to be honest, the work's going to get awarded based on chemistry and relationship and, past book of business, but you would notice a lot of people just becoming chameleons almost. It's sort of like, well, what are you looking for? Oh, we can do that. Oh, we can do that. Oh, we can do that. It's like, no, you can't really. You need to just focus in on what you do really well and be confident and walk in the room, because clients need you, but they need you to tell them exactly the right way to plug you in so they can orchestrate that.
I think it's important for people to have a point of view. It's if you're a chameleon that says that you can do this, and this, and execute on all of that, then you don't really have a point of view. I kind of sympathize for the kind of industry right now where everything seems to be like jump ball on briefs, and it's not healthy for agencies to be kind of competing on a project by project basis for every single brief. So when we've worked with agencies, honestly, it's been about relationships, and whether it's an agency that I had worked with in the past, as in White and Kennedy or what have you, you're picking these agencies based on the relationships that you've had and the people that you want to work with. And we've never put anything up for pitch. We've actually made decisions on who we're going to work with based on a chemistry meeting, and just a handshake of this feels right. Every great agency out there will can show all the great work that they've done in the past, but I think it's really about who are the people who are going to work on our business, who are going to be the partners, and we'll make a decision based on that.
Network, reputation. I think when I'm looking for agencies, then there's a group of CMOs that I'll talk to, who know me and know what I'm looking for. I do want an agency to come down the hill with a big idea and sort of surprise me. I love the strategic thinking, and agencies need to have strategic thinking. But for me, the two things agencies need to do are be disruptive and create memory structure. If your ideas do those two things, they tend to be cut through. Most consumers aren't thinking about our brands. They're walking around thinking about, what am I going to get for lunch? Where are the kids? What am I going to do? So they're not thinking about your brand. The loyalty is low. So if you're building a brand, most brands building it on loyalty isn't going to work. So you need to get more people. So what do I want from an agency? I want an agency who can come up with disruptive ideas that build memory structure. Now, the memory structure bit's really important because that means it's sustainable. It's a sustainable idea that builds positive attributes in a consumer's memory.
Right. I think on the search thing too, how you find people. I went to I always go to the same, industry conference and kind of watch the CMOs and the agency search consultants kind of all crowd around each other. And I mean, in your brand marketing, to connect with people, you go through influencers and people who are connected and have cultural capital. And I'm sorry, but search consultants don't. Like every major search for a campaign over X million dollars, if you look at the list, is still being run through search consultants that are not, when you talk to them, they don't know who's out there. They don't know the ins and outs of these companies. They don't have the relationships. They won't pick up the phone when a small agency who used to be, global chief creative officers calls them. They don't have the time of day for it. So, I focus on really getting to know those companies and the ins and outs, and then you can very quickly guide, a CMO to the right team. These are the right people for you. Get to know them, have a quick meeting, take a chance, and move forward, versus spend 6 months, hundreds of thousands of dollars, disruption, on this search process that I think is just antiquated. I have an opinion.
Yeah.
But it's like, all of them are in suits and just not really getting to know the creative teams and spending time with them. And I think that is so important if someone's helping to guide you versus yourself.
Absolutely, and I think that's indicative of we're living in this really interesting transition time right now, where there are still the search consultants and the kind of the big AORs that still exist in market, and they will exist for a really long time. And
Absolutely.
so just the reality of how some of these businesses are structured. But I think that again, seeing companies like yours start to come in and disrupt the system has been really exciting, and working with brands at scale. So these aren't small startup brands, these are Target, they're Nickelodeon, these are brands that are that need that from the side of innovation.
No, I don't think they're dead. I think they're being redefined. I think you need to make a commitment to a team, because they're going to learn your business and they're going to learn the ins and outs, and they're going to be there with you when bad things happen and recover from that and work together. Now, do they manage this much? Do they manage this much? And where you put them and what they're doing, or how they're quarterbacking and how they're integrating with your internal resources, is what you need to define. But I love project-based work for specific things, and I think it's really important that you figure out the right way to orchestrate that team in. But for certain items, it's important to have someone committed to you. Just the scopes of those might be changing. But also, in other relationships, I see, well, we don't need an AOR, but we're going to put you on a project for a year. Okay, that's the same thing.
Yeah.
And the agencies know how to make money off of that in a much new way than they did on the AOR. So a lot of them actually like that. But I think there's definitely something about making committed relationships and not sort of being fanatic in how you hop around on core business needs. But
with those teams, are you seeing kind of the agency side teams look different from maybe, again, from a project that's built today versus a project that maybe was built a couple years ago?
Yeah, for sure. I think, you're streamlining it. You're getting, I think, work in companies and agency that's done a really good job at this, or a digital agency. You basically get a dedicated team, and it's the people who are going to do the work. They're on the project, and they work at your office if you need it, or at their office, but they're dedicated to you. And you're paying top dollar for them, and you should, because this is the best talent they've been able to recruit, and we need to be paying that talent what they deserve. And so, but you're getting 6 people versus potentially 5% of this person, 4%, 10%, whatever, and then a lot of junior people. So I think the teams are changing, but I know you guys are probably really itching to this one.
I'll let John go first on this.
I think the AOR is as dead as TV. So, and TV is not dead. But I think what's happened is that clients need. I personally believe in agencies of record, and they need that relationship. But the scope is maybe less or more defined than it was. And some agencies do claim to be able to do too much. And so I think sticking to what they're great at, I think, is important. And I think the point you make is super valid around, I think clients went through a period where procurement ran a lot of the relationships around work plans and time. That was a disaster. I mean, it looked good financially, but again, one of the first pieces of advice when I was starting my career, I asked somebody who's running an agency, what's the first question you ask an agency? And the answer was, how do I get your best talent?
Yeah.
And you want the best people. That's why you go to the agency. You want the best people, and the best people aren't on average rates.
Yep.
So be prepared to pay for talent. And then you take the excuse away. Now I've got your best people. I want great work.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, it's, in some ways, because we've done both sides of the coin, and we've worked with, fantastic agencies over the last 4 years, and we did a little experiment in 2016 where we decided to have more of a a la carte collaborative approach mixed in with different freelancers and different planners and what have you, that effectively, collectively, with our internal marketing and creative teams, made an agency. We felt that this lean model actually led to some of the best work we've ever done, and I do believe that there's absolutely validity in this continuity. If we were just very helter-skelter and changed creative teams every project, then the work would reflect that. It would be quite fractured. So we actually ended up working with the same two people for almost a year on multiple projects, and it all kind of ended up with our Super Bowl campaign this year, which was our most successful one yet, and it was done with a very, very lean approach. And it's not to say that, in 2017 we wouldn't work with an agency or what have you, but
Not to put you on the spot or anything.
It's about finding where the best talent is.
it's about it's about people
that have good chemistry.
It's about the raw talent,
Yeah.
and whatever side they live on. For me, is almost irrelevant. But if you can find that right chemistry that organically feels like you're working together, then great things happen.
And I think to that point, there's definitely the need for strong talent on the agency side, but I think I can speak on behalf of many agencies that say it's really important for us to have clients that also have that talent and that drive.
Yeah.
I think that's on our side, that's sometimes the hard thing to find is really finding partners who want to push and want to push the ways in which we're solving problems. And I think that's where, the value, there is a new kind of value exchange with agencies and clients. Like we're still bringing the ideas, we're still bringing the thinking, but having client partners who also have vision and also have it. So it's not just kind of the classic model of kind of speaking, I have an MBA, so I'm allowed to say this, but being kind of the classic room of kind of textbook MBAs as being your client. It's been really interesting having kind of creatives on the other side of our client relationship as well.
Yeah, it's been a fascinating experiment, I think, especially in the last year. And I think another thing that's different, this approach will probably not work for most brands because we actually have a creative and design team here that I would put up against an agency in the world. That's how much I rate our design team and what have you. So finding a solution that works for your company and your DNA is what you're looking for. And in our case, all of the design, all of the production, what have you, is actually being done internally. And I'm a big believer that you still need a third-party view on your brand and your business. It's really easy to look 2 inches in front of your face and think everything smells like roses. So but I don't know. It doesn't always need to be another massive agency giving you that third-party view and that different bespoke lens on your brand. It could be one person, it could be a small collective, it could be something else. I absolutely think AORs are gonna exist, and it's a very healthy relationship for a lot of different brands to have. And if you look at us, especially as we start to move into international waters, and it would behoove us to try and put boots on the ground everywhere, getting local kind of market insights and what have you, especially from a media and comms planning perspective. That would be very difficult for us to do, even though we do primarily all the media planning, buying, and creative internally for North America. That would be very difficult for us to do from an international perspective. So it very well could be that we need an AOR in the future that helps us with our international expansion. However, if I had to predict, like in the next 5 years, I think agencies are going to get smaller, leaner, and hardworking muscle and less fat, because I think the clients are going to demand it. And the only reason why clients are going to demand it is because a lot of the people that work on the client side have been from the agency side and know every trick in the book, and they know where you're going to mark up work and like what have you. So
Yes,
if you have that understanding, there's almost no other solution than to try and figure out how you're going to create a malleable structure to work with brands on. So I do think you'll start to see numerous big agencies spin off into smaller kind of boutiques and what have you that'll be more laser focused in terms of like what their value proposition is to brands, and you're going to see a lot more of those. But I could be completely wrong.
Yeah, I think I'm going to play off of that for a second, because I think we have to be I think the brand side has to be really careful about how they're approaching this, because there's a fragmented market and there's definitely a lot of money to spend, but it's all getting fragmented to who it's being spent to. So when you're seeing top tier talent now all create small agencies, those people were used to quite big salaries. They had a lifestyle, they had a way of living, and now, some brands are seeing them as smaller, so they're paying them less, and they're giving them smaller projects, which is why it's M&A season right now. I mean, every one of those small shops right now has an offer on the table, and the big shops are all trying to buy them up. And to me, I'm fearful of that happening, because I love these small teams that are doing one thing really, really well, but you need brands to understand how to orchestrate them, how to use them, and how to keep them sort of staying in that zone versus going, well, now we need to sell, or, oh my gosh, we can't get this big project because we don't have media. So now do we hire media? And then it just like kind of combusts, or they sell into a network. And so I'm sure that cycle's happened many times, in everyone's career, but I'm slightly fearful of, the small shops not getting the right momentum, because brands aren't really prepared how to use them in the right way. So that orchestration layer of putting them together, I think, is really, really important. And I would love to believe that we continue to move in this cycle of working with smaller teams, but there's a lot of things that need to happen around that, or else I think they will sell and they will kind of go back to a place of comfort, which gets us to work that we don't all always love.
It's actually interesting. It could be that the AOR relationship with the future is actually more localization, adaptation of work, and the actual smaller teams are the ones that you're looking for to actually come up with innovative, big kind of ideas, are the ones kind of a little bit more upstream and coming up with the thought leadership at a certain point. So
those projects can't be, $25,000, $50,000 quick 2-week engagements, which is what's happening now. And I think, brands really need to sort of think about what they're buying and valuing that talent in the right way.
I think you'll still see big agencies and you'll still see boutique agencies. And the successful people in big agencies will create boutique agencies. I think what's interesting is this sort of middle ground where you're seeing the emergence of the orchestrator, the organization that has a data arm, has a sort of a content creation through influencers, has different offerings in different sub-companies or connected companies. So I think that sort of orchestration agency is going to become bigger. And clients are going to look for that because it's such a complex world.
Do you think brands could hold that? I mean, I get put as the chief orchestration officer on the brand side a lot.
And I think that's one of the changes that's going to happen at the client side.
Good.
Is that I think clients are going to take more data in-house.
Absolutely.
And they have to do that for two reasons. One is to manage the consumer-facing, but then there's also the retail side of it. So clients that win in the future will have more data in-house and have the capability to orchestrate. And I think that's going to be, if you think agencies sometimes work in silos, spend the time in a client. It's, so that orchestration bit is going to be one of the biggest challenges, both internally and externally for clients.
One of the clients I work with has 55 agencies of all shapes and sizes. They have a team of 8 people dedicated to agency relationship partner management. That's not procurement. These people spend time in those agencies, they spend a week there, they work on the business. We started working through it the past 2 years, but they had this long, sort of evaluation process that was really detailed, and we just made it more personal and human, and there's a feedback cycle, and you trust them. This is the team that supports, both sides of the fence, and you can go to them with a problem, they can quickly get work routed right to the top for you, and they try to solve challenges in the best way possible. And I think that role of partner relationship management is so important. What those metrics are, I think, is specific to the engagement and the teams. But I think there's such a need for relationship management.
Yeah, and I think it's both ways. Where I've seen it work really well is where you're evaluating the agency and they're also evaluating you. And if you have that trust in previous organizations, I've seen that, it becomes a very fruitful conversation because it can't just be one way.
Yeah, it can't just be slash your budget.
Yeah, it can't be, you didn't deliver.
Yeah.
Your creative sucks.
And that is about accountability. I think all of relationships are about accountability, and it's on both sides. Did we hold up our end on the brief? Did we hold up our end creatively, staffing wise? All of those things. I think that's where partnership happens, and that's what's critical today.
And we find it very challenging in our industry because of prohibition.
Yeah.
Believe it or not. But in the beverage alcohol industry, I can't sell direct to retailers. I have to sell through a wholesaler. So linking an agency's work to real data and metrics about performance is super tough.
Yeah.
Right.
Because I don't have that loop. And I think it puts more emphasis on having the conversation about the strategy, the creative work, etc.